sorry to begin like this, but when a gentleman asked a very probing question that shouldn't we have Bhagavad Gita as part of curriculum, and Dushyant gave the logical answer. But I am one of those people who say, no, we should not have Bhagavad Gita in the curriculum. We should have Quran. Because Bhagavad Gita will tell you what you need to do, but Quran will tell you what will be done to you. And what is more important? What you need to do will be told to you by your parents, by your grandparents, by your associations. But nobody will tell you what will be done to you. In fact, they will hide it. Like it was hidden from me, from all of us, for most of my living life. Until, like Eklavya, I took Dronacharya in the form of Zakir Naik. People may hate him. They do. But he is my guru because he opened my eyes to the reality. And he made me read what he was saying. And I found out that that is the truth. And people don't want that truth to come out because they are scared. That is the knowledge that we need, Dushyant. Yes, one may say we need the knowledge of our Vedas and Sanatan Dharma. But then you look at this marvelous image. What do you see? You see Lord Ram, Lord Lakshmana, Goddess Sita. But you see Lord Rama carrying something. Why is he carrying that? He is carrying a bow and arrow because he too believes that it is needed. And I want to put to you that somewhere along the glorious journey of Sanatana Dharma, we've been so enamored, so enthralled by the wisdom of thousands of Dushyants that we've forgotten the absolute vital task of protecting them. Dushyants are unprotected. Hence, for how long? And I'll tell you, most of the battles are won not when you undertake them, not on the battlefield, but before that, in the mind. And when I look at the title given to us, I believe we've lost the battle even before we've undertaken this battle. What does the title say? Revitalizing Hinduism. Subconsciously, we feel the need to revitalize, like Dushyant. Go to the etymology. We need to re-energize. So we subconsciously feel that somehow it is not energized enough. Somehow there is something wrong in it. Somehow we've forgotten. Somehow we have to breathe life into it. Why? Is it dead? Subconsciously we've come to believe that we need to resurrect. We need to re-energize. We need to revitalize Hinduism. Because subconsciously we've forgotten the etymology, vita, life. Hinduism is life. Before you breathe energy into it, remember that if life goes out of it, you can breathe howsoever what you want, but you would have lost it forever. And that is what I want to talk about for the next 40, 30 minutes or so. Then I'll throw it open for questioning. That it is not that we will have warriors amongst us, Dushyant, Jesai, Vikram, so many others who will lead us to the battlefield. The problem is subconsciously we have lost. And I'll tell you why we've lost, because there is this thing about strength. Strength has to be feared before it is demonstrated. I don't want strength to be demonstrated. People have to fear it. And I'm sorry, we are just not going about it the right way. We believe we are, and in terms of defense, we are secure, that if ever we are attacked, we will demonstrate our strength. That's the wrong way of looking at it. Every nation under attack demonstrates its strength, whatever capacity the strength may be. Right now, if we are objective, the tiny nation of Iran is winning the war. It is demonstrating its strength, no matter what Trump or Israel might say. They are demonstrating it. You may win, you may lose, but they're demonstrating it. But did you fear Iran? No. You feared United States. Fear the strength. And I'm sorry, the situation right now is a bit like, as I talked about, revitalizing as opposed to something that is vital. We seem to have lost, in terms of semantics, what the word actually means. And again, I don't want this to be a catalogue of my disagreements with my brother Dushyant, whatever he said, maybe rhetorically. But when he talked about the awful reality of Dravidians hating Sanatana Dharma, all true. But then I was asking, yes, my blood boils when somebody says we need to eradicate Sanatana Dharma, and he controls the Sanatana Dharma. The temples of Sanatana Dharma are under his control. And he said about eradication at a conference that was to protect Sanatana Dharma, to eulogize the temples of Sanatana Dharma. Blood boils. But that the fact is, what have we normalized? We have normalized billions of people who not just want to eradicate Sanatana Dharma, they say in their scriptures they want to eradicate everyone who follows Sanatana Dharma. And we are absolutely fine with it. In fact, if you mention it, they will say you are promoting hate. If I were to recite what is written in those scriptures, you would say that is hateful, without realizing that I am quoting verbatim. That is why it's been 2 years and nobody who was outraging and wanting Nupur to be arrested has had the guts to say, is it or is it not true that what Nupur said was derived from the Islamic scriptures? Nobody has the guts to say it. So it's not just the Dravidians who want to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. We have normalized billions of people who read their scriptures every day that call of nothing but destruction of Sanatana Dharma. That's the reality. A couple of days ago, you had the legislator out here, not yet maybe, but a BJP leader, Lataji. She went to an airport and she went to a prayer room and she recited the Durga Suktam. And there was an outrage. I tweeted a headline, newspaper headline that said, there's an outrage because she is promoting enmity, because there were some burqa-clad women out there who were undertaking namaz. So 5 times a day, every day, all year round, and these are facts. The essence of azan is there is no other God but Allah, and you cannot worship any other deity except Allah. No other deity is worth worshipping except Allah. 5 times a day, all year round, for centuries. That is promoting amity. But reciting Durga Suktam is promoting enmity. That is what has been normalized. Double standards have been normalized. Nobody fears the strength. When you say this time round, when Bakhtiyar Khilji comes, we have S-400 ADS, we have Arjun tank, we have Tejas. What's the use? They don't fear it. If they fear it, they would not attack. The very fact that you are attacked means that your enemy does not fear you, does not fear your strength. He wants to test your strength. And you've lost right there, because you might win ultimately, but you won't escape damage. You won't escape misery. And that is the tragedy of Hinduism right now, starting with the title itself. And I want to go one by one, another 15-20 minutes or so before I throw it open, because I really want the assessment of what you feel. Are we comfortable in this? Are we comfortable listening and being enthralled by Dushyants of this world without asking for how long more? How much more time do we have? And they say, I know it's a cliche, demography is destiny. You have the upcoming state elections. You have Assam. And you know, 1/3 of the districts in Assam are now almost heavily Muslim majority. But it is not the case of a Muslim majority being a threat. Religious majority shouldn't be a problem. Do we worry if there is a Hindu majority or a Christian majority, or why should we worry? The problem is that all religions are not the same. That is the tragedy. I would be the first one to get up and say, look, this is wrong, what is happening. But then I put the evidence in front of you. This is a country where 7 lakh Hindus are refugees in their own land for 36 years. Kashmiri Hindus. 99% of the Kashmir Valley is now Islamized, Muslim majority. You had the then sitting chief minister saying we should have stoning as a punishment. Death penalty through stoning. You have schools in Jharkhand where Sunday is no more a holiday, it is changed to Friday. The problem with demography shift is that very quickly your worldview, you believe, should be followed by everyone. And that is the antithesis of what a Hindu believes. That is the difference. So in 90% Hindu majority, millions of Muslims can say there is no other God except Allah, do not worship any other deity. But in a Muslim majority, if a Hindu were to recite Durga Suktam, that is a problem. Unless we understand the difference, factually, logically, rationally, I'm afraid we are ignoring the elephant in the room. And that is what is the situation right now. It's not just the fact that you right now have sitting MLAs and MPs daring the army to set up a camp in the Chicken Neck corridor. You had the AIMIM corporate or legislature saying that I dare the army to set up a camp. This is increasing day by day by day. It's not just a battle that the politicians have to fight. It is a battle that has to happen in the mind. I don't want it to happen on the roads. I don't want all of you, including me, including Dushyant, to come on to the roads, streets, rallies, marches, demanding something to be put right that isn't. That's not our job. We love Dushyant for what he does, because we can't do that. We don't want him on the streets like unemployed JNU graduates fighting, Aaj kya chahiye, azadi, azadi. That defies the whole purpose. That is imbecilic, if I can call it. But is that what the government wants us to do? We elected people so that they lead us into not an oasis. It's a far cry from being an oasis, this country, but at least some semblance of peace. And that peace can only be had if the Hindu candle stops burning, not just from one end, from both ends. And I'll end by giving you instances of how normalized we have become, without realizing that the Hindu candle is burning from both ends. One end is discrimination against Hindus and Hinduism, and the other end is appeasement for the minorities. And it's been so normalized that we don't even bat an eyelid. If you are jealous of somebody else's unity, that means you are divided. And we are divided because we don't realize, and nobody's told us. For the last 2 weeks, the Muslims in Kashmir have been collecting funds to help the Muslims in Iran, the regime in Iran. The same regime that, without batting an eyelid, killed 30,000 of its own people, men, women, and children, 2 months ago on the streets. To prop up that regime, in solidarity of that regime, Kashmiri Muslims have collected 20 crores, jewelry, cash. When was the last time there was any collection drive, any donation drive by the Kashmiri Muslims for their own brothers, Kashmiri Hindus, who were driven out? Give me one instance. Never. But then I don't blame them, because they are waiting for the Hindu strength to be demonstrated. It is not being feared. And I'll tell you why it's not being feared, because I'll take a show of hands. How many of you know where Khamong Sheikh is? Right? Not a single hand has gone up. I was in the same boat 6 months ago. So you have the Kashmiri Muslims fighting for the rights of the Iranian Muslims, the Muslims in Gaza, ignoring the genocide that happened against the Jews on 7th October 2023. You have the Indian Muslims fighting for the rights of Muslims all across the world. Rohingya Muslims. You remember the Azad Maidan riots that happened, I think, 2009, 2010, where the famous Amar Jawan Jyoti was kicked, and the Indian Muslims were in solidarity and demanding that the Indian government then take in Rohingya refugees. And then after that, it resulted in us taking in, not like America, 500 Rohingya refugees, not like Indonesia or Jordan, 1,000 Rohingya refugees, not like Qatar, Islamic country with Sharia, 20 refugees, but 40,000 Rohingya refugees. And where did we settle them? In Jammu and Kashmir. But they fought, Indian Muslims fought for their rights, their brothers, the Ummah. And I asked you, how many of you know what or who or where Khamong Sheikh is? Not a single hand went up, including mine 6 months ago. Khamong Sheikh is a region in Myanmar where a Hindu genocide happened. 100 Hindus and families were butchered. Some were buried alive by Rohingyas. And many of them might be right now in India as refugees, feeding off the Indian state. Did we as Hindus ever march for the victims of Khamong Sheikh? Was there a single, forget about relief, a detention camp that was set up this side of the Indo-Bangladesh border in the last 2 years, when all of us, supposedly pro-Hindutva government, is watching with open eyes the genocide of Hindus in Bangladesh? Not one. How many Bangladeshi Hindus did we take in? Do you remember that viral clip of thousands of Hindu Bangladeshis having escaped certain rape and pillaging and loot in chest-high waters of Teesta, pleading with the BSF Jawan, let us in, let us in. And the Jawan obviously could not defy orders, and he said, I'm sorry, I cannot. And we looked at that clip and said, oh, this is a tragedy. But we can say it's a tragedy. Why did the government turn so helpless? And that is the candle that is burning. But it's not just the fact that Bangladeshi Hindus are fearing the brunt. It is the Indian Hindus. The discrimination that we've been taught has been happening against Muslims in the last 11 years is a figment of imagination when you talk of constitutional, legal, social, educational discrimination. It has been happening against the Hindus. But because the narrative that has been spread is so much that we've normalized it. How in today's climate will we have 10,000 Dushyants when we have only one? When the center of our civilization's endowment, the temples, are left to their own, when the government stops controlling them. Right now, the state controls 110,000 temples, sets rent on them. You know T.R. Ramesh, he could be jailed any moment. He is fighting a battle that is a battle that the government should be fighting. And he says the 6,000 crore rupees rent that the government should get by putting up that temple land, it doesn't even get 1% of it every year, 58 crores. There is rampant corruption. Government can take over a temple on the pretext that it is being run in a corrupt fashion. There are churches, there are gurdwaras, there are mosques that are run in a corrupt fashion. Have you ever heard a government taking over a mosque? All that money that people of other faith that they earn through their places of worship, they are putting up in building tens of thousands of schools, hospitals, things that pull people or keep them to their faith. Out here, when those very temples, had they that money not been siphoned off, would have produced tens of schools, thousands of schools, hospitals, dushyants, pathshalas, orphanages. They're not able to do that. There are some governments that even mandate to siphon off money from Tirupati. They've legalized it. And the BJP government controls more temples than even the Congress government did. Now I ask you, this is the extent to which we have normalized discrimination against Hindus. How many examples do I need to give? I don't want to give anecdotal examples of the judgments of the judiciary. I don't want to talk about the fact that when the judiciary talked about Sabrimala, it was not discrimination, but it was perceived discrimination. After all, there are more than 400 Lord Ayappa temples where women are allowed entry. And it was only in Sabrimala Ayappa temple where, because the wish of the deity was such, because he's celibate, he said a women of a certain age group who are menstruating should not be allowed. That was perceived as discrimination by the Supreme Court. What was not perceived as discrimination by the Supreme Court is that Roman Catholic women cannot be ordained as priests. That was not discrimination. The fact that there are dozens of mosques where women cannot enter, even till today, that was not discrimination. And it was not discrimination that there are dozens of Hindu temples where men are not allowed entry. So how is it discrimination if you have a temple where men are not allowed entry and one temple where some women are not allowed entry? It's not discrimination. But the Supreme Court decided such. I'm not talking about that because that you can say is anecdotal. That is one judgment, even though there are judgments upon judgments that are clearly anti-Hindu or have a Hindu bias. But I'm talking of constitutional, legal, educational discriminations that are happening. That the Hindus have to face devastating consequences, not just decades from now, but maybe a decade from now. For example, the Right to Education Act. On its own, it's a very noble thing. Every child must have a right to education. Who can oppose it? But in conjunction with the 93rd Amendment, the obligation to reserve 25% of the school's seats for economically poor sections of society is only on Hindu-run schools. It is not on Muslim-run schools or Christian-run schools. How can this be fair? How can this be democratic? How is this not legalized, constitutionalized discrimination? And as a result, tens of thousands of Hindu-run schools have shut down. They can't afford this. And you know what is happening? Because the other faiths have it in them, it's a dogma to proselytize, to preach, to convert others into their faith. They are bound by that law. The Hindu parents, for no choice, will send their ward or their kid to the Muslim-run schools or Christian-run schools, and there, maybe subtly or in your face, you will face conversion. You will face proselytization. And then 20, 30 years from now, you will say, what is happening? Why do we see millions of conversions happening? And then you say, well, we did nothing about that rule. You can expect Congress to do nothing about that rule. Why is the BJP government silent? Can it not see the impending tsunami? Can it not gauge the fact that a blatantly discriminatory constitutional act has merely been appended or amended by it rather than it abrogating it completely? Where through the same act, the Waqf Act, 20 lakh acres has been claimed in the last 10 years, including a temple which is 1500-year-old in Tamil Nadu, claimed to be on Islamic land when Islam is itself 1300 years old. How is this possible? But this is happening. You don't have the courage to abrogate that act. I have no problem with the Waqf board. A board is a board. There are companies that have boards. There are companies that decide something. But you have weaponized it. And you weaponized it not just simply, you've made a parallel government as a weapon. You've handed it over. It has its own judiciary in its tribunal. It has its own executive and its own legislature. Now, I'm fed up of asking the government to remove discrimination. They're not going to do it. So the next best thing is to ask that that discrimination be applied to everyone. If you don't have the guts to remove the Waqf Act, then you make an alternate Sanatan Act. Then you empowered the Hindu boards to claim any mosque on a Sanatan land. Well, technically every mosque is on Sanatan land. Just imagine. Suddenly a Hindu board decides that Jama Masjid is on Sanatan land. Well, the Shahi Imam will be outraged. He will say, I will go to the court, and say, no, you can't go to the court. You have to come to the Sanatan tribunal first. Where like in the Waqf tribunal, you have all the Muslims adjudicating. Here you will have all the Hindu priests adjudicating. And 3 years of legal wrangles later, we will tell you, indeed it is on Sanatan land and we own it. Then you can go to the court. Within 24 hours, they will abrogate the Waqf Act. I want the 25% obligation of reservations to be on Muslim-run and Christian-run schools. How is that discrimination against Muslims and Christians? Because if you believe that is discrimination, how come you don't believe that putting the onus only on Hindu-run schools is not discrimination? But this is what is happening right now. And let me not even come to the Places of Worship Act, where you cannot, as a Hindu, knock on the doors of the judiciary to demand your demolished temple to be reclaimed. You can't even do that. I thought the bedrock of democracy was that no matter if the judgment goes against you, at least you are able to go to the judiciary. You are able to fight your case. That is what, according to me, is democracy. And if you don't have it, then I'm afraid we are living in a banana republic. There is no other way to describe it. And it is us Hindus who are saying that we don't need to reclaim all the temples. We don't need to find a shivling under every mosque. Just 3 are enough. I'm sorry, but who are you to decide? There are people who hold their Kul Devi, Kul Devta more sacred than the Ram Janamsthan, Krishna Janamsthan. Is that how justice is dispensed? That you have 30,000 cases of criminal atrocities against Kashmiri Hindus, but then you say, oh, we will take the most prominent 3. That's it. And forget about the 29,997. That's not justice. That is as far removed from justice as is possible. And let me not even come to the appeasement part. Because as I say, appeasement is an instrument that has turned from welfare to workfare to now warfare. And that's the other end of the Hindu candle. Hindus didn't mind welfare being committed to other members or other communities. It's fine, chalta hai, political cheez hai, aap kuch de rahe hain, haj subsidy dete raho. But then came workfare. And we saw a semblance of that in what Dushyant was saying, that now everything needs to be converted to anti-Hindu. Hindu festivals need to be told explicitly that they've got nothing to do with Hinduism. Yoga is not Hindu. Let's not celebrate Hindu festivals. Let's celebrate people who destroyed Hinduism. Let's celebrate people who committed genocide against Hindus. That is workfare, where you manipulate your textbooks, where you manipulate your cinema, where you manipulate your visual, all mediums, so that the population is either apathetic to the needs or wants of Hindus or blatantly turns anti-Hindu. And the final is warfare, which is the stage we are right now, where there are actively laws being promulgated that are anti-Hindu, that are discriminatory. And that is the most dangerous thing. Everyone in this country is discriminated. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, that's not the point. But you name me one constitutional, legal, educational discrimination happening against any other community other than Hindus. I've been searching for it. I haven't found it. And the very fact that we have accepted this to be an axiom is what is worrying.